Joining me to discuss BTC's price and other Bitcoin news is our Week in Review panel, Brad Cowan, Managing Editor of Tech and Protocols, and Bitcoin Protocol reporter Frederick Manawa. Welcome, Brad and Frederick.
Thanks, Lawrence. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, Brad. Hello, Frederick. So, Brad, let's start with you. Big push for Bitcoin back up to 21,000. And this, of course, happened. That's a significant level because that's roughly where it was prior to the FTX implosion. What happened this week? Was this whole bad news with Genesis already filing for bankruptcy? Was that priced into any of this?
It sure looks like it. Well, at the very end, yes. Clearly, market's really not reacting at all today to the news that came late last night in U.S. time. Obviously, this has been kind of in the news, as you know, Lawrence, rumored for a while, and bits and pieces have reported it. So markets probably had a fair chance to trade on this already. But big picture, I think coming out of 2022, such a terrible, it was the worst year in 4 years, down 64% on the year. And then, beginning of the year was a little sluggish. And then all of a sudden it seemed like, okay, 2022 is in the rearview mirror and the market just decided to take off. And that's what we saw last weekend. So it sure does seem like the market isn't worried too much about this latest Genesis news.
Now, nonetheless, the sister company to Genesis, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust discount was widening. It seems it's last I checked, it was like 39%. It's somewhere in the high 30s. Last I checked, unless you have more recent data. DCG, of course, owns Grayscale, and I have to say, for now, CoinDesk. So, what's going on with the discount?
Well, I gotta say, you accurately described the situation, but yeah, you're a little dated on that Grayscale discount because it actually has widened out past 40% again, Lawrence. And what the big picture is, DCG was under all kinds of pressure. And people don't, these are private companies. People don't have a perfect picture of what DCG's finances look like. And so there was speculation they may have to do something involving the Grayscale Trust that might ultimately lead people to be able to get that underlying Bitcoin. Now here, they're putting Genesis into bankruptcy. It seems like maybe that's it from DCG. Like they'll be okay after they do this. I mean, or at least that's kind of the signal. And they're saying, they put out a statement today saying it's business as usual. So ostensibly, no change immediately regarding Grayscale. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out, but that's the status quo.
Hey, I mean, a few more bankruptcies, and I guess Barry could run for president. We've had that happen very recently, where somebody files a lot of bankruptcies and they end up being president. So, yeah, the worst might be over. So, what technical indicators are you looking at? Are you looking at market momentum? It seems that one measure is at its highest since 2019.
That was the relative strength index, Lawrence, that our analyst Glenn Williams Jr. was looking at. But I mean, I think in addition to some of these technicals, definitely for sure. I mean, we've had this big run up, and in markets, there's probably the sentiment really has changed, I think, quite a bit. Whether there's more to run, I mean, Glenn's sort of signaling that we might sit here at 21 or even go a little bit lower than that. But, the big change is really the Fed, expectations of the Fed, not this next meeting in a couple of weeks, but really what's beyond after that. People thought they were going to have to raise a lot more, but it does look like the economy is slowing. So maybe they pivot dovish a little sooner. And that's kind of put a tailwind behind the entire market.
Brad, we'll get to your picks for what's happening in the coming week or what you expect to happen in the coming week. But I really want to talk to Frederick here because he has a story about not Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. They now can freeze and confiscate other users' coins. Frederick, can you explain what's going on here and what's Craig Wright's role in all of this?
Thanks, Lawrence. So yes, just to set the stage, for those who don't know, Craig Wright is an Australian computer scientist who claims to be Satoshi. Many people don't believe that. He forked Bitcoin in 2018 to create Bitcoin SV or BSV. And at the end of October, at the beginning of October 2022, his team introduced a new feature that allows BSV users to confiscate other users' coins as long as they have legal documents to prove rightful ownership.
So now this isn't, you kid about Craig Wright being not being Satoshi. However, Satoshi, maybe Craig Wright, for all we know, has something that he put in. He discussed this years ago. We're talking here about kill switches and things like that. So what did Satoshi, right now, I'm not saying Craig Wright, I'm saying Satoshi, could be Craig Wright. What did the person known as Satoshi say 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah, so very interesting, Lawrence. Now, what happened is after this new feature was introduced, in BSV, a few Bitcoiners came out criticizing this new feature, but some members of the BSV community were quick to point out that Satoshi himself once suggested having a kill switch in Bitcoin that would render stolen coins useless. So he was very interested in that idea, and that is true, but he never implemented it. So the question remains, was this just brainstorming, or did he really think a kill switch in Bitcoin was a good idea?
So what you're saying then is that a kill switch might be Satoshi's vision. Well, anyway, of course, it's Friday. It's the end of the week. Brad, what are you looking at next week? What do you expect to happen? You have a crystal ball. I know you could predict all sorts of things. I've had you buy lottery tickets for me. I'm retiring. Can you tell me what's coming up next week?
Do the opposite of everything that I'm about to say in the next 30 seconds, Lawrence. But, I just, some of the highlights of our reporting, Omkar Godbole was making the point that the Chinese New Year's coming up, and Bitcoin historically has gone up 9% during the 10 days from the beginning of the Chinese New Year. So, it's the dragon boat rally, call it. I just made that up. Omkar didn't call it that. But at any rate, that, who knows? China used to, as you know, Lawrence, have a much bigger influence on the Bitcoin network. But anyway, that's just a little factoid. The debt seal, we talk about the Fed, the blackout starts, so we're not going to hear any more Fed speak for the next week or so. But also the debt ceiling debate over the U.S. finance, like U.S. government's finance, that is increasingly going to be a talking point in the markets. People talking about however that plays out. It could get ugly, or maybe it just gets resolved like it has in past years.
We don't know. There's possibly going to be a harsh debate on this. Anything can happen in the House these days, and it makes it fun to watch. If you're not an American, it's entertainment. But if you are, it's pretty brutal. Frederick, how about you?
With the dollar, U.S. government finance, if the dollar's at stake, it affects everybody in the world. So, it's important to watch, keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And, some constituents in some areas are enjoying this, and that's why they voted for the members of Congress that they did. Frederick, what are you watching this coming week?
Well, since we're talking about controversial figures, I hear Andrew Tate was bragging about using Bitcoin for tax evasion. So I'm very curious about that. So I'll be keeping an eye out on that.
Yeah, that'll be fun to enjoy there.